Greetings, simmers, history lovers, and curious tourists. We're back, and today we're building the Chateau de Falaise, which was the birthplace of William the Conqueror. Falaise means cliff in French, according to Wikipedia, the Great and Powerful, and that is fitting because, man, were a lot of rocks involved in landscaping this. Yeah, boy did I put it on a cliff. The one we built is not actually the one that William the Conqueror was born at. It's gone through several changes and adjustments, as we all do as we grow older. Originally, I was going to just build one based off, the current keep and castle. And then I did a little bit of research and realized that it's not even the same building as when William was born. And so I was like, oh yeah, no problem. Sticking with the history, that is my name, that is my game. This lady is going to build it authentic. And then I saw what it would have looked like. It's literally just one tower. It would have taken me like 5 minutes, which now sounds really nice. So I didn't do that. Maybe I'll build it the way it looked when his son was king, Henry I. I kind of stuck with that, kind of didn't. So this product is going to be an interpretation. We don't have a ton of historical build content, so I'm doing my best and crossing my fingers that EA will one day give me a Renaissance pack or somehow bring The Sims Medieval back. Well, which one is the Saint of Lost Causes? St. Jude? Somebody, if anybody up there is listening, can I please have The Sims Medieval back? Or a Renaissance Fair pack? Yeah, I'll even take a kit. We kept the tower. There's a moment where I nixed it and then tried again, but we kept the tower because it just kind of added to the overall grandeur and feel of it, and I liked the tower, so it stayed. I went with a picture of a floor plan that I saw on Wikipedia, so I was trying really hard at first to be exact and go according to that, and you'll see it in a minute here, my proportions were just all off, and so I kept with the general shapes, but I resized them just kind of completely based on what looked good on the lot. Which, funnily enough, I was thinking this lot was kind of small and I was regretting building on it, because initially I chose it because it had all of these little, crevices and cracks and rocks sticking up, which looked like a cliff face to me, and it does mean cliff. And so I was like, oh, this is the perfect spot, so I'm going to build here. And I didn't really look to see what size the lot was. And I was like, it feels small, partly because I was building just a ridiculously too big tower. Thankfully, I resized it later. And now I think this is one of the biggest lots in Hinford on Bagley, if not the biggest. And I feel very humbled by the fact that I thought so highly of myself that I was like, oh, it's such a small lot. I could just do so much with just give me the whole neighborhood. Just give me the whole street. What are lots? Just let me build over everything. I'm an idiot. Don't listen to me. I was dumb. I was very dumb. I am not that great of a builder. And I am humbled by the lot later. It's not that it's small. It's that my ego is that big. But don't worry. I got put in my place. So yeah, a little bit about the history of the chateau. Obviously, birthplace of William the Conqueror. His mother, her Leva, was actually from the town of Falaise, and it was the traditional seat of the Dukes of Normandy, and it remained in the English royal family after, William did the conquering, until, I gotta check my notes. It was in the English possession until, here it is, 13th century, 1200s, King Philip II of France. He's the one who initially, captured it, switched possession back from England to France. However, it is going to change hands a lot through the 100 Years' War. It's just like a game of Hot Pocket as far as this castle is concerned. In the end, it does wind up going to France, but it sticks around for almost 200 years, I'd say, in English hands. So that's a pretty long time for, possession to be 9/10 of the law. In 1123, the current castle, as we know it now, started to take shape. It was constructed, it was started to be constructed on the current site by Henry I of England, who is the youngest son of William the Conqueror, the one who winds up getting all the things. He started with building the large keep, and later they added on the small keep, which is this little area in the back here. It was pretty simple in the beginning. It had a great hall, a chapel, and a room for the Lord, but it didn't really have small rooms for complicated household stuff. It didn't, there's not servants' rooms and, chambers for this steward of that and this queen and this da-da-da-da-da, at least not in the early days. I couldn't find a current floor plan or even one that broke it down by like rooms and functions. I could just find like a generic outline. And so when I get to finally decorating the interior, it's kind of a bit of a free-for-all, liberal interpretation. We're just gonna guess, and we're gonna go with what feels right. But the exterior, I tried really hard to be as accurate as I could. Also, the keep was only like one part of the castle as a whole. There was this giant courtyard. Actually, I guess there's still this giant courtyard and walls and all this stuff that housed tons of other buildings, including a full-on church. Now, technically it was just called like the castle's chapel, but no, like it's a church. Plus there's a small chapel in the castle. So the chapel within the keep here is basically like, I want to pray. This is my private prayer room. It's like if somebody today had a closet and they were like, this is my meditation space, or, you know, just somewhere to get away from the drama. That's what it was in the castle. But as far as, you know, actual services, big events, everybody coming together, there was a church built on site within that greater walled-in area for the inhabitants of the castle as a whole to go to. There was also kitchens and houses and blacksmiths and workshops and gardens and training areas and a barracks and all of these cool things that I so wanted to build, but I didn't have the space, and now I'm so glad I didn't have the space. Oh, I'm just so grateful. When I tell you that it took me weeks to build this, I am not lying. Now, part of that is just a matter of my inherent counterproductive perfectionism cross-dressing as my procrastination, and so I just kept rethinking and overthinking every decision I made. And it was also because it's the first time I've ever used the tool mod, and I am painfully reminded throughout this entire build that math was not my favorite subject, and I have no idea how decimals work. Didn't know then, don't know now, and it was a humbling experience. But I wanted so bad to give it an authentic medieval feel. I wanted it to be an actual keep. I wanted it to have stables and guard rooms and gatehouses and all these things, and I didn't have the space for it, and I'm so sad. Even now, even in my exhausted state of like, it was for the best, a small part of me, a dumb part of me, but a small part of me is like, but it could have been great.
What is dead? He must have died while carving it.
So let's talk a bit more about the history. This is obviously the Duke of Normandy's castle, and as we learned in the last video, what is synonymous with the Normans? Murder. Welcome to my parents' murder podcast. That's what it's starting to feel like. Anyways, 1123, Henry I of England, he starts building the large keep and the small keep as we see it now. 1202, the castle is still in English hands. William the Conqueror's descendants are still on the English throne. King John, he is officially king now. He's the guy from Robin Hood. He's Prince John, the antagonist. He is officially king of England, but he's just become king of England. He has a nephew from his older brother, Geoffrey. His nephew's name is Arthur, and Arthur is the Duke of Brittany. Arthur decides that he wants to be king and that he has a right to be king, which he technically does. And if we're going straight primogeniture, it does technically outrank John's, but Arthur is a teenager. John is a grown man. You'd think he would realize that puts him at a significant disadvantage, but he didn't. Also, John had the backing of his mother, Eleanor of Aquitaine, and that alone should have sent Arthur being like, you know what, this isn't, I like Duke of Brittany's a fun job. I like this place. You be king. Don't let me get in the way, because you do not cross Eleanor of Aquitaine. Imprisoned by her husband, and she outlived him, and I am convinced it was just so she could dance on his grave, because she was significantly older than him. I think she was actually 13 years older than him, so that's significant. And she lived to be 80. Have you met an 80-year-old woman who's seen some stuff? You don't cross her, especially when it's your grandmother. No, man. But he did, and Arthur besieged the castle that his grandmother was staying in. And John was like, oh heck no. You were annoying before, but oh no, nobody does that to mom. And he captured Arthur, and he imprisoned him in the keep here in the Chateau de Falaise. And so that's 1202. Come 1203, Arthur's dead. Pretty undisputed, he did. But the circumstances of his death are unclear. Did John order his death? Apparently even Eleanor herself kind of speculated whether or not John did. But Arthur's definitely dead. And boy oh boy, if we weren't right back here at the murder train. If there's one thing the Normans are, it is consistently bloodthirsty. And that does make the narrative interesting and also repulsive.
A knife! He's got a knife!
Of course he has a knife. He always has a knife. We all have knives. It's 1183 and we're barbarians.
So Arthur's dead. 1203. 1207, Philip. He has taken his castle and he has beaten John. Everybody seems to have done that. And he is now in charge of the chateau. Philip decides the keep is a bit too small, so he orders the building of the Tower Talbot, which is the giant tower that I initially thought of cutting, but then decided to put back. And he orders that built, and so the tower that we see today, definitely not around when William the Conqueror was alive, but it is also not in any way associated with the English rule. It is French, 100%. The keep, the castle, the land even, pretty tied to, the Normans and England. That tower is like a statement piece in my mind. That is Philip being like, all right, I am here and I am here to stay. Vive la France.
Vive la France!
So yeah, he builds the tower in about 1207. And then 100 Years' War happens, for 116 years or something like that. It changes hands a couple times, as possessions tend to do when you squabble. And the castle itself was abandoned in the 17th century. So 1600s, it's just straight up abandoned. And it just kind of sits there, just doing nothing until 1840. So between the 1600s and 1840, as far as what I could tell, nobody's living here. I'm sure someone used it for something, like, I don't know, maybe a parade or a fair, or, I mean, if I was homeless, I'd try to crash there, but it's not having any official political function or role or anything like that until 1840, when it becomes a protected site. Oh, that includes, like, the entire French Revolution, too. Interesting. But yeah, 1840 it becomes a protected historical site. And once again, has a pretty uneventful life from what I could tell. Please, if I'm missing something huge, tell me in the comments. I want to learn more. I find this place super fascinating. Until 1944, so 104 years later, and we all know what's happening in the 1940s, World War II, right near the end of it, and there is a battle happening for the pocket of Falaise. I'm not entirely sure what that meant. That's what Wikipedia called it, and I like the name, and I like the idea of pockets. It's something women rarely get. So I'm going to keep saying it. The battle for the pocket of Falaise. And there is bombing that happens on the chateau. Now, the keeps survive pretty unscathed, but the Germans, they tried, and it didn't fall. And I kind of think that if walls could talk, this chateau would have been like, excuse you? I survived the 100 Years' War, the Plantagenets, a murder, the Normans, the Revolution, being neglected, and you think some bombs are gonna put me down? And not even French ones? Like, no, like, you're cute, you're funny, go home. You cannot touch me. And I just like the idea that maybe this the chateau is just sitting there a little cocky, just, you're cute, you're funny. Not a chance.
That's how it is, that's how it was, that's how it will be.
There's actually graffiti that people have carved into the stone. Just from what I could kind of tell, I'm not entirely sure if I read it right, but it seems like it's from soldiers who were just kind of bored and hanging out, but I'm not sure which soldiers. And the thing that fascinates me is it could have been soldiers from anything from the 100 Years' War to World War II that did this. And maybe they all did, I'm not sure. But just the fact that there's that longevity and that just record of people just being people and just being like, I'm bored, want to carve our names into this while we wait and see if we live or die. I love it so much. It's just like this tie across time of people saying hi. Be like, hey, we'll never meet, but we're essentially the same and we know each other. Just we're connected by this building, by this stone, and just want to say hi to whoever is reading this. Even if it's literally 1,000 years from now. It's just so cool. I love architecture. It's almost like a letter from the past. It saddens me so much that so many modern buildings, and I'm speaking from like the United States here. I don't know about new buildings being made in the rest of the world. I can just speak to, what I see where I live. It's cheap and it's crap and it's 9 times out of 10 ugly. Also, what is with all the plywood? Have you ever heard of a tree that didn't get pulverized first? It doesn't even last. Forget your lifetime. It doesn't even last for your rental period. It's just so sad. We're not leaving any footnotes or any letters. At least not any good ones. And the thing that's also so cool is each generation has their impact on it and has their piece of it that they leave behind and alter a little bit. Because like I said, when William the Conqueror was born, this keep, this castle, the chateau, didn't exist. Not the way we see it. It was one tower. But maybe part of that tower is still in there and I'm just not aware of it. And then later on, when the French take it in the war and take it back, they build this tower on it. Personally, I think as a way to be like, Viva la France, but it's still cool and they leave their mark on it. And then normal people, like little soldiers who are bored, carving in the graffiti into the stone, they leave their mark. And now it's a museum and it's been, changed and restored. And there's certain rooms that have been made to look like it did in the medieval era. And then there's galleries of the story of the chateau and things like that exist. And that also is leaving their mark. The architecture itself is kind of a continuing diary entry. And when one person puts down the book, someone else picks it up and keeps writing. So it's this myriad and this blending of voices that I think is so beautiful and so amazing, singing to you all across the ages through the literal walls. And it's still going. We're still changing and affecting and appreciating and saving and restoring and leaving our bits behind for the next person to pick up. I want to see more diversity and beauty in the simple things built around me.
But you gotta keep moving so long as you remember all the people that you used to be.
I don't like it when things look a little too clean and neat, especially the terrain paint. There's tons of little paths and indents that I tried to make around the place of showing where, hey, maybe the kids like to go play by these rocks, or maybe a servant got tired of lugging water this far and was like, I'm just gonna cut through and not take the stones. And the stones themselves, I tried to make them look a bit dirty, worn through in certain areas where I figured there'd be lots of traffic, especially heading up towards the entrance of the keep. I figured there'd be lots of horses that would be, traveling up and down. There would be soldiers and knights and carts and merchants and things like that. So I tried to make sure that it looked like it was a place that was high traffic and frequently used. Just keeping it realistic. Also, so these archways and windows that I initially have here on the front of the facade of the keep. I really liked them on the front. I felt like it fit very well, and the plan as it stands at the moment, it may change, is to have the Great Hall on the second story. So you can, use that little balcony area to kind of look out through them. But then going around the sides and using them kind of everywhere on that second floor, it just, I don't like it. It doesn't fit. Especially looking at it now, they're too big. They're too big, and it takes away from the fortification aspect. The front, I think, still works because they've got that walled courtyard area, and they've got the gatehouse, and then there's the battlements. So it's still fairly protected, but having it on the exposed side, does not feel right. So when I go in to decorate the interior, I'm gonna change those out. And the only reason I left them, because even at the time when I was making it, I was like, yeah, these don't work. But I left them because I couldn't think of anything better. And since then, I've remembered some windows we have from Strangerville, which I always forget about, but they're the ones with the triangle tops. They would work perfectly, so I'm gonna use those. Not sure which size I'm gonna use. Maybe I'll use a combination, but I'm gonna use those. Alrighty, and that is my take on the Chateau de Falaise. Next time, February 1st, you're going to be making Henry I of England and his immediate family. Also, part 2, interior of the chateau, will be up as soon as possible, but it will definitely be up at least by the 1st of February. And if you have anyone that you would like me to make or any builds you want to see, let me know in the comments below, and we'll make those. Thank you so much for watching.
Oh, yeah. Spire on top, brother. Okay. I was gonna be nice. But now you've gone too far. Holy look, obviously there are many strong opinions on this issue, but you really think we can't kill more people than you? Please, we let you win. Oh, just got real. You know what?
Tradition! Tradition!
I don't much like our children.
Don't make jokes!